did I think would come from the choice to leave home?
Hold up. Photograph. 3, 2.
It wasn't this.
You about to tell me you're off to the war?
You better be bloody careful.
Stand to!
So how do you boys want to go then? Bullet? Shell? Gas?
I'll be going home, thank you very much.
War's not going anywhere. Trust me on that front. Safety off now, lad.
They're going to push the army north to end the war.
Seems reckless.
Well, that's the idea.
I'm in.
Gas! Gas! Gas!
Really thought we'd be home by now.
What was it all for?
Come on!
You'll put us all in danger if you don't cut this hero ship. This is my fault!
You fight for the man next to you!
I'm in debt to these boys.
3, 2. 1.
Boom, there you go. That was a trailer for Before Dawn, arriving in select theaters as well as digital on July 19th. I'm Kuya Peters, Nerds Rule the World, and talking all things Before Dawn. I got the director as well as a little bit of the writer. Some of these characters in the story was based off of some stuff back when he was in high school. I got Jordon Prince-Wright. How are you, sir?
I'm very well. I have to say that's the best intro ever.
I try to give good energy, man, because I'm an empath. It's all about an energy exchange, man. I'm here to show love and promote this film that I know as a fellow filmmaker, you put a lot of hard work into, man. So I definitely want to give you your flowers and spread that love.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this. That's for sure.
Definitely. So I mentioned it earlier as I was doing my research. You started with this way back in high school. Had some notes.
Yeah.
And you kind of worked on it a little bit. You kind of did a couple little short films here and there until you was ready to kind of do an undertaking like this film required. Can you tell me all about that lead up and, finding that research as a young kid and then just kind of building on all of that to give us what we have in Before Dawn?
Yeah, so I read the diaries when I was in high school, and it was part of like a school excursion to one of the local museums, and that same local museum had actually started supporting some of the short films that I was doing, which were, war genre. And read these diaries, and the curator there saw that I was really fascinated with the stories that were in the diary. So then I got to see some other diaries that weren't on display, and then one thing led to another. Read other diaries from other museums from over east, and the Canberra War Memorial, et cetera, and that's when I started speaking to people. I was like, oh, okay, World War I, and there wasn't an awareness around the fact that some of the greatest military victories of all time were in World War I, and the scale of World War I. I mean, you'd mentioned Australia and New Zealand's contribution, and everyone thinks Gallipoli, and you go, well, actually, no, there's the 3.5 years that followed Gallipoli, and there's the Western Front side of things, etc. So I was like, okay, this story's got to be told for that reason. And yeah, made a whole bunch of short films, went off and made another feature, worked on other features, and it was all building up to this in the sense that all of the short films that we were doing were in confined spaces. The Westerns, we were using firearms, and how does it look? And those that know me know I was born in the wrong era. So I actually grew up watching Yul Brynner and Steve McQueen and John Wayne, back in the days where Blockbuster and Video Easier and whatnot were a thing. My old man used to go and get these black and white movies out, and the staff there used to think that they were for his dad, but in fact, no, they were for his 5-year-old son, which was me watching these black and white movies. And I was just fascinated in the fact that, you know, movies like that, you can still watch and say, sit down and watch The Great Escape, for instance. And yes, there's parts of movies like that where the acting might be a bit iffy now because, you know, we've advanced in sense, but you can still sit there and watch it because the CGI hasn't outdated, etc. And so I've always been for, okay, let's make this real. Let's make it authentic. Let's use real pyro. And there's parts in Before Dawn which you sit there and you go, oh, is that CGI? And it's like, no, that's real. That's, you know, the barrage where they're all charging up the hill. That was $1.4 million that went up in like 10 seconds, and we caused an earthquake, which was quite a bit of a flex in a sense. So like, yeah, our movie caused an earthquake, 2.8 on the Richter scale. But we, you know, months of planning and all that to get that done. But yeah, it was just super exciting to go, okay, now this is what we've been working towards. And you know, of course, the next two films we're working towards, Before Dawn has been working towards that. So everything is a stepping stone, but Before Dawn has been something very close to my heart since I was 15 years old. And the fact that we finally got it out there, it's now out there in the world. The reviews have been fantastic. Audiences at the premiere, we had 1,500 people plus at the premiere. And yeah, people were walking out in tears. And I was, oh no, what have we done? What have we done wrong here? And it's like, no, they've connected with it that much. They've gone on this emotional journey, and it truly is incredible to see, and it's incredibly rewarding that these years leading up to this, and yeah, literally blood, sweat, and tears because of how hard this shoot was. It was always like -5 degrees. It was raining every day. It made for perfect conditions for what we wanted on screen. But you know, we were always in knee-deep mud, and we got the closest that we could be in the cast and crew to the Western Front without actually being shot at. And that's the best way to describe it.
Love it. And respect, salute to you, sir. I love that. I love that energy. And from what I read, and you now kind of giving from your own mouth, from what I've read about how this whole project came together, is just absolutely beautiful and feels so very genuine. As a veteran myself, I love that. And that's kind of like the whole point of why you did this film, was to get the word out, if anything, so people can connect and know these stories. You know, if this is just kind of like the start of it, and they'll go do the research, go to the museum themselves. I love that. It's beautiful, and I appreciate that from a veteran perspective, man. That's beautiful.
We even had a lot of veterans on set. That was part of the deal. Was, okay, if we're making this film, a lot of the extras were veterans, and even some of them were even current service men and women that were involved in the film. Which was awesome, because the worse things got, the happier everybody got, because of the fact that, like, this isn't actually that bad. Yeah, and I remember the first day the set blew over because it was 120-kilometer gust winds. And long story short, it would have been the second or third day, and genuinely, like, we were fed up. We never wanted to see rain again. We didn't want to see mud, no sandbags, etc. That night, we were all sitting at the pub. A whole bunch of the extras were talking to the crew about how great it was, what they were doing, etc. Then they started to tell their stories, and you could see that all of a sudden, the next day, the attitude just changed. It was no longer that, hey, we're making a movie here. We're not just making a war film. It was like, no, we're making a film here. This story has to be told. And we've just met people firsthand who are telling us why it needs to be told. And I guess that's kind of the best way to describe it. But being able to sit there with those veterans and the current service men and women, that's when all the crew and the cast were like, wow, okay, this is not just another film we're making here. This is something that's going to be quite special.
I love it. I love it. Again, respect, and I appreciate that, man. Putting my filmmaker hat on. As a filmmaker as well, man. When you finally got to this point with all that hard work, these notes from back in high school, I loved learning about the production process, because, you know, we all learn from this, and you take that knowledge to the next project. So going into that, how long did it take to write that script? You know, mining to find those old notes when you finally were like, okay, I've laid the groundwork. We can now do this film. How long did it take you to write that screenplay? Then the production, getting it all together? Because I saw you talk to a bunch of farms to like find space, and everybody was hitting you up. That's so dope. I love that the community of Australia, everybody came together, and you were really committed to practical effects. And I love that, again, as a filmmaker. Respect to my CGI peeps, but it's all about practical filmmaking. Just to have that ability to do that, and now have that budget and everything, it means a lot to really give your story what you want it to be. If you can just shine a light a little bit on just that whole pre-production process to how we got here in this amazing film.
So yeah, for us it was writing that story years and years and years ago, and then okay, we're going to go and make the short films, and then we'd revisit that story, and then I'd go and make the Western film, and then I'd revisit the story again, and it was like that sort of thing. And with me, those that know me, every film I work on, I like working with a screenwriter. So even though the story is based on the characters and story by myself and whoever else may be the other writer or whoever it is that I might tee up with at the time, I always like using a screenwriter and Jarrad, who wrote the screenplay on this one, because that way I'm not too connected with it. So that on set, if I need to make a tough decision going, this isn't working with the story, I've got to cut it out. It's not, oh, actually, no, I spent 6 months or a year writing that scene, I've got to keep it in there, because no, it's got to be for the story. And I remember there was even a particular time where I wanted the Sop with Camel, which is the biplane, and there's only one in Australia, and I knew there was. But I asked Jarrad, hey, look, I need you to write the Sop with Camel, et cetera, et cetera. And he turned around and goes, where are you going to get a Sop with Camel from? It's going to be, and I said, well, yeah, I'll get one. He said, oh, your funeral, good luck. And the next day I got a Sop with Camel. And so then he never questioned anything from then. It was like, whatever works for the story, and we're going to make it work. And and that was a bit of a process. But building the set took about a year to build. And that was like, yeah, what you see, because the way that we ended up rehashing things as we were filming and editing, like we actually had an opening shot, which was a wide of the entire set, but you were taken out of the trenches, and we had other scenes where it was wide. And I was like, we should really only be taken out of the trench when they're all charging up that hill, where we can see they're all like ants and how pointless this is. And if we start going out of the trench too soon, it's gonna undermine that's a significant shot. So, so in a sense, it was like, okay, well, we're going to lose, the audience may not see how much of the set we actually built here, because it was just miles of trenches. It really was. It was nuts how much we built, and everything was built to scale. So it was off trench maps. I never want to see a sandbag ever again. The amount of sandbags that we ended up filling.
I'm curious about those parts too. Just I've done quite a few industrials for the Army here in the States.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stuff I don't want to. Yeah, it's like stuff you don't want to do.
Yeah, you do it once, and then I was like, all right, cool. But then it was, this is going to be happening every weekend now. We're going to be down here, and I'm going to have a team filling sandbags, and I love to get in. Look, don't get me wrong, I love to get involved in every department. I love it. It's good fun. But there was a couple of times we'd be like, yeah, I'm glad that I'm not filling sandbags today. But it was, and then COVID hit and we had to postpone a few months, but we used that to our advantage, because then the weather and the rain got to the set, so everything started to degrade, and it was no longer looking like, hey, machinery's built that trench. It actually looks like those trenches have been there for ages. So, I'm a strong believer everything kind of happens for a reason, and that kind of worked out. And then we ended up with a set that we had. We even... and then there was, going back to like that explosion that we were doing, that was 6 to 8 months worth of planning and surveying the ground. And the same with the trenches. We had to it was an engineering marvel in a sense, because there was, when the water comes in, where does the water go? Because otherwise it's just going to fill the trenches up. So we had to have drainage systems and dams out the back that everything would drain into and then back down. So, there was a lot, and then pumps. So that way the water would be pumped back out and then out into the lake. So there was a lot of thought processes. It wasn't a case of, okay, we're just going to dig some trenches here and put some sandbags around. It's like, no, everywhere you turned, if you turned, there was a Vickers machine gun, or if you looked over the top and it was only 10 meters to the German trench, that's exactly how it was. That's straight off those trench maps. So the authenticity of the sets right through the costumes, and, having the actual rifles, etc. And then, limiting CGI and all that was very important to making sure that we could, have a very realistic looking production on the screen.
I love that. And I think you got some like BTS videos or filmmaking stuff that are up, I think, like on YouTube or whatever, or will they be available on like the digital release?
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether they're going to be doing that as part of the digital release. I'm not too sure there, but there is a documentary on the making of Before Dawn that's coming out July 5th.
Yeah.
And what I love about the doco, though, is it's not about the film, but it's about a whole bunch of people being told that making a World War I movie in Australia is impossible. So we all said, all right, stuff it, we're going to do it anyway. And it's about that journey and everything we went through. And like going back to what I was mentioning about the first day when the set blew over, I remember Ben and his team who were doing the behind the scenes, he walked up and he goes, hey, I want to make a documentary. Now, as a filmmaker, you know that when you're making a documentary, it's because things are going wrong. And I'm the director there, hearing a guy saying, I want to make a documentary on your movie. I'm going, oh my goodness, I'm just trying to get this.
Don't jinx me, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm so glad he did, because I remember when I sat down to watch the doco, and I said to him after, I said, look, I don't want to sound rude, but I came in here, sat down in a theater to watch it. And I was like, oh yeah, who's going to care about the making of this thing? And I sat there, and within the first 2-3 minutes, I was hooked, because the doco, the way he's done it and the story that he's told behind it, like I said, it's not about Before Dawn. If you want Before Dawn, you go watch Before Dawn, you learn about history and all that. But the doco is about a journey of us trying to make a film. But so it'll connect with filmmakers, but it will connect with people that actually go, oh yeah, I want to go make anything, because we were told up front that this is going to be really hard to do, and we all were very ignorant and went, yeah, bugger it, we're going to do it anyway. So I'm really glad that he captured that. And, there was all sorts of things like the hospital down there. I ended up getting I knocked my head on sets. They took me into the hospital, and this is a country town we're talking about, middle of nowhere. And they ended up locking me in the hospital because they thought I had COVID, even though there was no COVID in Australia at that point.
Oh,
so there was lots of comical moments like that throughout the documentary that you kind of sit there and go, it wasn't funny at the time, but we're having a really good laugh now. So yeah.
Awesome, dude. I love that, man. Get them flowers though, bro. As a film fan, I love all these mediums that we can use to create as creatives. So now you got me excited. July. What's it called?
The documentary is In the Trenches, the making of Before Dawn. But yeah, July 5th, it's going to have its premiere in Australia, and then it's starting to do its festival circuit. And I believe it's around August that it's going to be hitting, it's going to be hitting festivals and limited release and whatnot around August in the States as well. So it's it's fantastic, really, that we, Before Dawn will come out, and then it'll be backed up with, hey, yeah, that film that you saw that, looked really horrible and everything. Well, in the way that it was filmed. Well, yeah, it was. Here's the doco to prove it.
No, I love it, man. Dude, you got into this business like I did. We are film nerds. We love this. We love this creativity. And I think it's just more added value to just the brilliance you're doing. We all work in tandem, man. So I love that. I'm going to check that out. But everybody, again, let me remind everybody, July 19th, here in the States is when we're going to get Before Dawn in theaters as well as digital. As I was saying earlier, again, as a fellow filmmaker, you get dirty, you're in this mix. Sometimes after doing it once, you don't want to do it again. For my filmmaker friends out there, for our fellow filmmakers that are watching this right now, and with this, when it being the kind of like one of the biggest projects, I'm sure you grew to this one from a Western, from shorts. What would be some pro tips you would give to fellow filmmakers of what you learned while putting together Before Dawn, and that obviously got captured as well as in that documentary that people are going to see? But what are some pro tips that you would put out there to our fellow creatives in making a project like this?
So for me, we actually had some interns on set, and I remember when it started pouring down with rain and we were all going out to film, and the interns were like, hang on, but it's raining. Why are we going to do this? It's like, yeah, you don't know, Jordon. If it's raining, we're going to film it. We're not going to worry about that rain machine or whatever, because you can't beat realism. You can't beat that sort of stuff. And you notice it. I've had audiences walking out saying, oh, I felt like I'm still wiping the mud off me. And so, any opportunity you get that think, oh, this might actually look good on screen, just capture it, because I guarantee you in the edit room, when you get there, because you make that film, the pre-production, you make it again when you film, you make another film when you're actually you're editing and putting it together, and being able to have all that material to work with, you can really escalate it. But for me, there was actually a mentor once that said, just go out and make stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. What do you mean by that? But I realized what he meant by that is if you're going out and just making short films, or for instance, so I'm off to go work for a major studio in December, and then another production next year. But in between all that, I've been drawing, I've been sketching, I've been in storyboards, because you've got to keep that creative brain flowing, because all of a sudden, otherwise, then you get on set and go, great, I've got 300 people standing around about to direct, but I can't remember what was I doing, because it's been like a year since I was on set directing again. So for me, sometimes it's just like, just write stuff and then go, oh, that's cool. How would I film that? And then sketching it and that sort of thing. So it's always trying to keep active, or like when I've gone out before with, I've gone out like with family or whatever, and I'll start filming, and then I'll go, all right, let's cut this together. And most people think, oh, what, like a highlight reel, anyone can do that. It's like, yeah, but how can we make this highlight reel different? So therefore, it's like when you're making an actual massive film on a big budget, how can we make this big budget film stand out differently? So it's still that mindset. It doesn't matter whether you're working on something small or a massive production or whatever. How can we do that? And the biggest thing for me is always trusting the people around you. One of the greatest directors of all time, Spielberg, said, you're only as good as your cast and crew, you're only as good as the people around you. And damn right, because at the end of the day, you have to have so much trust in them. And the fact that I got to work with such an incredible cast, ensemble cast, an incredible crew, who a lot of the crew I've worked with before, they're there working their butts off to get this project on the screen, but they're doing it because they believe in you, and therefore you've got to give them so much respect for that, because they're going to hell and back to pull off this production, to get this production on the screen the way that you're seeing it, to see that vision. So you've got to make sure that you trust them and you surround yourself with an amazing team. And I've been incredibly lucky that I have, and very much looking forward to working with them on the next one. And, like when I've had studios come to me and go, oh yeah, we want you to do this. I go, yep, cool, but I want to pick the crew, and it's like, because at the end of the day, I've got to where I am because of the people that have been supporting me. And it's like, I want to continue on that journey with them.
I love that. Completely agree. Man, I can understand why. You're such a young cat too. I was like, man, this guy's young. And then just doing all that, what you've accomplished thus far, bro. Salute to you. And I can see why, man. You have that old soul, but you have a lot of talent, brother. And I appreciate that. And I hope these words will just ensure all these other fellow filmmakers that are out there like us, that all this work, we're all going through it, and we can all learn and build and just keep going, man. So I appreciate that.
Definitely.
So again, salute to you with Before Dawn. Again, everybody, it arrives in theaters July 19th, as well as digital. Again, like I told you, I'm a vet, man. And what I loved again, reading about and all the stuff you've been doing press wise and talking to me right now is that all about just kind of giving love and light to those that went through the trenches, that been in these trenches, and speaking their story so a whole new generation can understand. And hopefully we don't repeat these events again as a universe, as a world. What do you want to tell people as we close out, man, about Before Dawn, what it means to you, and to the people that have already seen it, and just to thank them for, for showing love to this and spreading out these stories?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the people that are going to go and see this. It's because of, in fact, I was at a screening not so long ago, and did an introduction, and I love going to as many screenings as I can go to. I'll go to, because at the end of the day, the audience that's sitting there, it's because that they're sitting there watching this film that I get to do what I love doing, and and that we all get to do what we love doing. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, that audience that's sitting there, if they love the film, go out and tell everyone, because the whole reason we made this is to bring that awareness to the forefront, to go look at the sacrifices of these men and women. And because of that, because of what happened back then, we get to live in the world that we get to live in today. We will never truly understand what they went through. We can only show it to some extent on screen. But, there's times where I sat there and I was like, okay, what would I do in that situation? And it's like, well, actually, I don't know. You don't know what you would do. So for me, the fact that audiences are seeing this is a dream come true as any artist, to see that your art is actually being seen by other people and that people are appreciating. It's phenomenal. And I don't think, I don't think it's really hit me just yet. I mean, I got given the DVD the other day and I was like, oh, wow, this looks great. I'm like, oh, that's right. Man, I directed this, so look, I love it. And, I can't thank people enough for going out and seeing it. And those that haven't seen it yet, I really hope they enjoy it. And it's been an incredible ride, and I can't wait to keep bringing films and incredible stories to the world.
Jordon, you're a talented man, bro. I love what I'm seeing. I've been in this business a long time. Just to be such a young soul, but just so wise at your age, and you're killing it. I can't wait to see what you're doing next, what you're gonna do next, man. I think something's in the water out there, man. Down under. George Miller is one of my favorites, and Mad Max Furiosa, just everything he's doing. Yep. They got another up and comer in Jordon Prince-Wright, man. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you're gonna do next. And actually, let that be my last question, man. You conquered westerns. You now have done this World War film. What's the next project? If you can tell me anything, what genre, what we can look forward to, what you're gonna tackle next? No genre. Well, then how can we follow you? To close this out, how can we keep our eyes on Prince-Wright Productions and Jordon Prince?
Pretty much, yeah. Look, Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I'm always posting stuff on there. I'm always posting. We've got our Facebook page. We've got the Before Dawn Facebook page. But for me, look, I've got 2 projects lined up, and at the end of it is like, if it is a story that needs to be told, this particular story is insane. It's incredible. The fact that it hasn't been told yet, and I got to speak to essentially one of the guys that was part of this true story, and I was like, why hasn't it been told? And he said, oh, well, they've been trying to get it made for 15 years, but no one wanted it. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Everybody that I seem to speak to knows about the story. Why hasn't it been told yet? They don't know the details of it, but they know of this particular story. And he's like, no one's really wanted to take on the challenge. So I've gone, let's do it then. Hear that word challenge, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't know. Maybe it's just I'm still young, and
that
I haven't
bravado.
I haven't learned my lesson yet. I haven't learned my lesson of how hard making a film is. I'm like, that's an epic story. It's a story that needs to be told. Let's do it. And whatever genre it may be, ends up being. And I also don't want to be filmmaker that's in this box that's like, oh, this is the only thing that he ever does. I want to be able to go, actually, I'm doing all this. But in saying that, my mum doesn't like westerns. She doesn't like war films. So I've done both of those. So she keeps saying, when are you doing a rom-com? And like, maybe one day, but not yet.
Sci-fi?
Oh, possibly. Sci-fi would be good. I'd love to work on another like period piece. And for me,
or take over for George Miller, post-apocalyptic stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything that is not in the now, anything that we can transport that audience somewhere else, because that's what I love about cinema is we go there, we sit in a room with a bunch of strangers, but it's got to be about the story for me. It's got to be about, okay, this is a remarkable story, whether it's a true story inspired by true events, et cetera, et cetera. This story has to be told. Let's tell it to the world, and that's what drives me to making movies.
I love it. Escapist entertainment, same deal, bro. I appreciate that. When that next project comes along, please come back.
I will, definitely.
Let's chat about it. Keep making that history now. I love it. It's amazing.
I was gonna say, I love your hat.
Appreciate you, sir. Everybody, Jordon Prince-Wright, Before Dawn arrives in theaters as well as digital on July 19th. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World. I'm good, sir. All right. I'm recording on my end. Good. All right, cool. All right, let's have some fun, Jordan. Let's talk all things Before Dawn. You ready to get cracking?
Ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's go. We are recording. I'm gonna count us in to help me with my edit because I'm putting in the trailer right here. Here we go. In a 1, 2, 3.